just as Democrats were celebrating an expanded majority in the Senate. Yeah, Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who announced she is switching parties and becoming an independent. Take a listen.
We make decisions about what's best for ourselves, our family, and our community. And so we don't spend a lot of time thinking about, is this a Republican idea or is this a Democratic idea? Is this liberal or is this conservative? That's not how Arizonans think. Registering as an independent and showing up to work with the title of independent is a reflection of who I've always been. And it's a reflection of who Arizona is.
Very snazzy video. Now, to be very clear, Sinema will keep her committee assignments and Democrats will still control the chamber. So what's in it for her? Well, my political panel is here. Eugene Daniels is an MSNBC political contributor and White House correspondent for Politico. Rohini Kasoglu is a former deputy assistant to President Biden, and Doug Heye is a Republican strategist and former communications director for the Republican National Committee. I should also add that Rohini served in the vice president's office as well as the domestic policy advisor. I'm gonna start with you on this one because you have Democratic Congressman Ruben Gallego. He's seen as a favorite to challenge Kyrsten Sinema in 2024, and he had this to say. I'm gonna quote. It says, "At a time when our nation needs leadership most, Arizonans deserve a voice that won't back down in the face of struggle." Unfortunately, Senator Sinema is once again putting her own interests ahead of getting things done for Arizonans. What does this mean? Rohini, what could this mean for keeping the, you worked in the Senate for a little bit. What does this mean for prospects in 2024?
Well, let's just take a step back. So for Kyrsten Sinema and the decision she made, there's a few things we can unpack here. So first, when we look at the confirmation of federal judges, that will be the legacy of President Biden and Vice President Harris. She will still caucus with the Democrats, and that will be helpful in advancing their agenda. When we look at nominees that still have to go through the process, Democratic nominees and non-controversial legislation, she will be helpful in advancing that. Also, the vice president is still very familiar with breaking tie votes, and she is used to that, and she will fulfill that constitutional duty. But there is no question, and I think others will comment as well, on the political headwinds she was facing when it appeared that she was going to have to enter into a primary. And so when we look at some of the votes she's had to take, particularly around, she voted against the increase in minimum wage last year.
I mean, the people in Arizona were very mad at her on some of this. I mean, I would just note this idea that this makes it better for her not to be in a primary. I know people have been saying that, but now she's an independent, and Democrats are going to run somebody else on a Democratic primary. How does this benefit Democrats? Does this benefit Republicans? I don't know.
I'm mystified by some of this.
Very mystified.
She often goes out of her way to cause some controversy and get her name in the news. But Democrats have been saying for months that what Joe Biden and what all Democrats need to do are tout the Biden administration's accomplishments. And if you look at every accomplishment that Joe Biden and Democrats can claim, Kyrsten Sinema is right there in the middle of it, as recently as this week with the gay marriage bill that Biden's going to sign. So I sort of don't understand some of the Democratic complaining here. She's part of why you're successful, and you've kicked her out. And I say, as a North Carolina Republican, where my old boss Richard Burr and Tom Tillis, who's also part of the gay marriage bill, also part of the immigration bill that he's working on with who? Sinema. When your party censures you, when your party apparatus in your state tries to kick you out, you might be doing something right in 2022.
Well, we're going to have to see about that. Look, Eugene, let me bring you in here because Kyrsten Sinema joins two other independent senators, one of whom I used to work for, Bernie Sanders of Vermont, and then you got Angus King of Maine. Both basically operate as Democrats. And according to 538, Sinema herself has voted with President Biden's agenda 93% of the time. Is there anything actually different about an independent Kyrsten Sinema? Or is this, as she noted, something that she felt like she just needed to do for her?
Yeah, I think it's just making something concrete and obvious that was already very obvious to most of us that pay a lot of attention to this, and also her Democratic Senate colleagues, because when you talk to them, a lot of us have been talking to them over the last 24 hours after this came down, and what they said is, she doesn't come to a lot of caucus meetings. She votes with us all the time. She operates as kind of her own independent force. They were really frustrated with her earlier this year when she wouldn't make clear and plain where she stood on a lot of different issues, and so it's kind of the same old, same old. Chuck Schumer said this. He is expecting this to not change hear anything. Rohini's right about she's going to continue to vote and probably caucus with Democrats. But this is about doing what she said she wants to do, which is look like John McCain, be a maverick, be very independent, and not be connected to these parties. She's just taking it one step further.
All right. Well, we're just going to have to see how this works out. I want to move to the release of Brittney Griner. We have one of her teammates on, and we just heard from Desiree Cormier-Smith from the State Department. President Trump has also joined in on this chorus from Republicans who are falsely claiming that Griner's release came at the expense of Paul Whelan, who is another imprisoned American, and he's been held in Russia since 2018. Paul Whelan's brother David responded on Twitter saying this about the former president. Former President Trump appears to have mentioned my brother Paul Whelan's wrongful detention more in the last 24 hours than he did in the 2 years of his presidency. Doug, the administration has said, despite their best efforts, they could not get Paul Whelan released. They're going to continue to fight for this. Why are some people treating it as bad news that Brittney Griner has been released? Pitting American against American.
Yeah, look, I think it's unfortunate. We should first celebrate that she's back home. What happened to her was unjust. She's back home finally. This is good news. Now we can then look at the larger policies of the Biden administration, see what works and what doesn't. We've seen some criticism from Democrats, Chris Coons being a good example. They've not gone the two-step, three-step, 10-step that Trump and others have, but Trump's going to Trump. So we know that whatever good news Joe Biden may have, even if there are larger policies that we should be looking at, Trump's going to be a wheel that gets in the way whenever he can.
I think that's an important point, Rohini. You agree Trump is just going to Trump, so should Democrats ignore Trump being Trump and stick forward to the agenda?
Absolutely. President Biden, as we heard earlier, President Biden he has been and representing all Americans. And so it's important that we celebrate the release of Brittney Griner, but we can also support that Mr. Whelan will get released one day. And that's how the president has been very forthcoming with the challenges that were in front of us and the decisions that he made.
All right. Well, before we go, actually, Eugene, Donald Trump announced his 2024 candidacy a couple weeks ago. He's been keeping a low profile. I mean, I haven't even seen one of these infamous campaign rallies. You got any info? Why? What's going on?
We haven't seen anything. You know what I mean? This is a man who never keeps quiet, right? He's been on Truth Social. He pops up every once in a while, but he has been quiet. And I will say, when you talk to people kind of in Trump world, what they do say is he doesn't feel like he's as excited to run for president as he has been before the other two times. So I think that's part of it. He also, kind of backed himself into a corner by talking about running. And so he's kind of going through the motions. I think that'll probably pick up next year. He still hasn't figured out what he's going to run on at this point, which is, kind of the same stuff that we've seen. And I think he's also anticipating and waiting to see what Republicans might be coming out and saying that they're also going to run before he starts putting himself out there. So we still have a long time.
Let me just say, it doesn't make sense to me. Okay, let me just say this would not be a communication strategy that the great Doug High would endorse. Eugene Daniels, Doug High, Rohini Kasoglu, thank you all very much.
Just a second, we have something for you.
Oh.
So let's turn to this.
What are we turning to?
Happy birthday, Simone!
Simone Sanders, girl, happy birthday. So grateful for your voice, for the words of wisdom that you bring to MSNBC every single day.
It's Nina Brown, Autumn Joy Live. We wanted to take time out of our safari trip to wish you a very happy birthday, Simone.
Happy birthday, Simone. We love you. Thank you so much for allowing us to be on your platform.
Happy birthday, Simone. I feel so lucky to learn from you every day. And Astro and I love you. The best day ever.
Happy birthday, Simone. Thanks for all that you do.
We love you.
Happy birthday, Simone.
Make good choices.
Okay, thank you all oh my goodness, thank you all very much. Today is my 33rd birthday, my Jesus year. Eugene Daniels, Rohini Kasoglu, and Doug High, thank you all very, very much for being here. And thank you everyone for that video, it's very kind. Thank you.